Welcome to Impact Podcast. My name is Jeremy Melton, and I'm your host, along with Daniel and Maddie. On this show, we're going to uncover some things about life that can help you on your journey to make an impact on the world that we live in. Our highlight question, what kind of impact are you making on the world we live in? This is episode number 5, and today we are excited to have our first interviewee here with us, and his name is Tyler Parzych. Before we get started, last week we finished up our discussion on leadership mandates. There was 20 of them total over 2 weeks, and we covered them from ownership all the way to resilience. And without going any further, let's do what we always do, our key takeaway from last week. Daniel, let's go.
So it was a whole lot to unpack. There's just a lot to it. There's a lot of pieces to these mandates, and it was hard to pull out what stands out the most. But overall, I'm just really grasping on and understanding that leadership and this journey is not static. It's never going to be finished. And there's always things that we can learn. There's always things that we can grow. And we never want to be in a position where we think that we're complete and leading.
That's good. Yeah, so you're always learning, right? So I think I said it the first or second episode. The greatest leaders are always students of it.
Students.
And that's because you have to keep learning. It's not, we talk about pride, but when you feel like you've made it, oh, I'm leading now, I don't have to learn anymore, you'll very quickly find yourself going backwards.
That's right.
So
and also we took away leadership capital and how we just want to get it.
Yeah.
And I want to get it. And I've been being intentional about, my relationships and thinking about that, like, hey, how can I get some capital?
Yeah, get the capital.
Going into these interactions and conversations and trying to get the capital.
Yeah, build a bank. Build the bank.
Yes, sir.
So the currency is always leadership capital. All right. So without any further ado, Maddie. Okay, yes, Maddie said, sorry, y'all, Maddie's not here with us today, and so we may not even make it through this because she's not here.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
we miss you, Maddie.
We're stressed, okay? But she just texted me back. She said, my takeaway was that I know so many people with 1 or 2 or 5 of these attributes, but I don't know one person that has them all. That's solid.
Yeah, I love it.
So that's really good. Thanks, Maddie. We'll catch up with you. I got to get back to the show, so I'm not texting here. But out of the 20 attributes, she doesn't know anybody that has them all. If you knew somebody that had them all, it'd probably be Jesus.
That's right.
Okay? And so that humility is the hardest thing for me personally. She said humility is hard. It is for me too, Maddie. Let's join the club. All right, moving along. Without any further ado, today we have Tyler Parzych with us. Tyler means a lot to me. He is my best friend. Back from high school. We're bumping on 40 years old now. He's still hanging around, and I've asked him to come and walk alongside us on this journey. So he's going to share some of his leadership journey with us today. And so you can take notes. Dude's a good leader. And so we're going to interview him. I'm going to ask him some questions and let him put it on us. So, Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. We're going to go ahead and get started. Before we do, Tyler, tell our audience about your family first.
Okay. My name's Tyler Parzych. I grew up in Conyers with these two guys.
Yeah.
I married my high school sweetheart, Kristen, and we've been married this year. In March will be 15 years, and she's my rock, and she makes things easier. We also have 2 kids. We have 2 daughters. My oldest daughter, her name's Peyton. She's 13 in 8th grade. Please help me.
I know.
And I also have a younger daughter. Her name's Addison. She's 8, and they keep us busy. would be the best way to explain it.
Yes, sir.
That's good. And your dad?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. My dad, my dad turned 70 in March this year. He's been fantastic my whole life. He's very consistent, and he brings a lot of calm. He taught me how to be calm under pressure, and that's something that calm is contagious, just like chaos is contagious. I also have a good support system with my wife's parents as well, my in-laws. My father-in-law, I worked with him at both jobs for a while, and he's taught me more than you'll ever realize.
That's good. I love how leaders always highlight what those that led them have done for them. That's good, Tyler. Thank you for sharing that. So, before we get off into the questions, tell me about, you have 2 jobs, both at which you lead. One, maybe more than the other, but nonetheless, you lead at both jobs. And so tell us about Disco first.
Okay. I work for a fire protection company, Disco Fire Protection. It's a fire protection company out of the Atlanta area. We do fire sprinklers, pretty much anything fire protection, fire alarms, fire extinguishers. My role there, when I got hired, I've only been there since May of this year. When I got hired as a lead inspector, and that role transitioned into more of a leadership role than it was when I got there. I'm in charge of the alarm division within this company now, and our goal is growth.
That's good. All right, talk about your other job.
My other job, I work for a fire department in the Metro Atlanta area. I've been there a little over 17 years. I'm currently at the role. I've held every shift role that we have in the organization I work for, that you can be while you're on shift. And when I say shift, we work 24-hour shifts, 48 hours off. So there's 3 shifts in my department. And currently in the rank of battalion chief. And that puts me basically in charge of 5 stations on my day and the personnel that are assigned to those stations.
Nice. Okay, Tyler. So we're going to get into these questions. If you're listening right now, again, somehow you know that you may have related to Tyler just in his introduction. Whether you be a fireman or you work at a fire protection company, or maybe you just work at a company that has some leadership there, or maybe you do lead those companies. But either way, somewhere along, or maybe you just have a family, but somewhere along the way, maybe you've found that you can relate to Tyler. So we're going to get after these questions. Tyler, tell us, how do you personally lead other people?
I try to do it intentionally as possible. Doesn't always work. We're all flawed. But my goal is to not tell somebody to do a task that I'm not willing to do. Okay. And I try to do that to be more matter of fact. The last thing you want to do is be telling people things to do, give them tasks that you're not willing to do yourself. If you're willing to do them, people tend to have more buy-in with you.
That's good. So maybe another, I guess you would say it, maybe you lead from the trenches.
Yeah, sure. That's a good way to put it. If you're in the trenches with your people, it's us tackling a task. If you're outside the trenches, it's you telling somebody to do something.
That's good. So you feel like, again, how do you personally lead? With them from the trenches?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's what I want to hear. Audience needs to hear you say that I lead from the ditch.
That's right. And it's not always from the front.
Right.
Sometimes it's with them. Sometimes it's behind them.
Yeah. Sometimes you put somebody in front.
That's right.
And that's true leadership.
That's right.
When you take your next in command and you put them in the front, and then you get back and pull with them.
Well, I know this is contrary to popular belief, nobody is born with these traits. These are all obtained through life, and whatever you've been through in your life, who's impacted on you, your mentors, whether you realize them or not, they were mentors and they shaped you into who you are today through your experiences. And this is all obtained through my journey, basically.
It's good. So real quick, and D Brown, anytime you want to jump in, you go ahead. I'm going to go through these questions, so we're fixing to hit him pretty hard.
Okay, well,
Jump in.
when he was talking about assigning tasks, and I love, like, totally agree. Don't ask a man to do something you're not willing to do. But to me, when you're delegation, you're actually handing out empowerment
Absolutely.
to these guys.
Yeah.
Delegation's empowerment. It's not just about handing out tasks, do this job. It's like you're actually.
But it's how you sell it.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's good. All right. Tyler, what is your approach to motivating others?
That's a good question. To motivating others?
To motivating others.
Through performance.
Okay.
By showing that I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
Whatever that task is.
Okay. So can you think of a time in your either career, either job, where you've had to motivate others to do their job? You've had to make them want to do it. And they don't really want to, but you make them want to. How do you make them want to do it?
Okay.
That's the question.
By showing them that you're willing to do it, what you're asking them to do. So we had
It's story time.
This is a story. Okay.
Yep.
We had a fire. We were operating, and it was in the middle of the night. We had been up basically all night with no sleep. And it was cold, wet, raining, and we had a house fire, and we were having some water supply issues, and we worked it out and got that straightened out pretty quickly. We actually got a rescue on this fire early in the call, and we were there for hours. This was a defensive operation, which, when I say defensive, it was basically a surround and drown, not interior operations on this house fire. And we were out there for hours and hours until people were just exhausted. And I happened to be in charge of, I was riding up that day. I was a captain at the time, but I was riding up on the battalion. The battalion chief was off. So I was operating in his role, which is something we typically do at the fire department. We train people to act one position up within the organization in case somebody's off, to where we keep the ball rolling, because the show must go on.
Right.
And people are going to be there sometimes, most of the time everybody's there, but there's times where people are off. So long story short with that, we were operating on the fire for a very extended amount of time, and everybody was laid out on the side of the road, just exhausted. And I stood there. I've been standing there for hours, wearing a jacket because I was cold, not because I needed to wear it for protection. So I saw all these people laying there, all of my people laying there exhausted, and seeing all the work that they had done, and we still had a lot more work to do before the call was over. So I just went and put my gear on, and I can hold a hand line just like the next guy. So I put my gear on and went over there and picked up the line and started flowing water. And I just about got tackled by my people, because they said, "No, you're the boss today. You're not doing that. We're doing that." And I cussed them. I said, "No, get some rest."
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let me do it. So that motivated them. And it was good, but I think it was mainly because I've showed them I'm not above any task.
Leadership capital. We just talked about it. That's what that is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
There.
He earned leadership capital right there. And those guys or girls, those people, whoever was there, had the utmost respect for you because you done that. So it's good. That's really good.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the story. All right, so what would you say your leadership style is? If I asked you, what is your leadership style, what would you tell me?
Well, if you ask me that, I'm going to tell you there's no turnkey approach. There's no one fits all.
Cool.
You have to be adaptive. You have to know your audience. Everybody's different. Everybody learns differently. Everybody has different motivators. But for me, what my turnkey, my default, if you will, is servant leadership. I think if you lead with a servant's heart, you basically you accrued a debt when you took a leadership role, and you accrued a debt to serve your people so your people can serve others. So that's me. That's where I'm at.
That's strong. You accrued a debt when you accepted the role of leader. Where today, in the world that we live in, they might say, well, I'm the leader. I should be being served.
And that's the boss.
In reality, yes, that's right. In reality, the leader acknowledges that he is now a servant, right? Would you agree?
Yes. When you take a role of leadership or whatever that looks like, wherever you're at, whether that's a manager or a supervisor or a department lead or whatever, you are not signing on to, you're not promoting up to do less. You're promoting up to do more.
Correct. That's right. That is good. That is really good. Okay, so let me ask you this. Would you say that your leadership style has evolved over time? Now, before you answer that question, because what you just said was that you felt like your leadership style was adaptive. You said that it was adaptive and that it changes, like depending on who your audience is, who your people are, and what makes them tick. We acknowledge that. Outside of that, you personally, your leadership style when you were a captain, okay, through your tenure as a captain, or maybe you were a lieutenant for a while, and then you were a captain, you said you worked every position. Would you say that your leadership style has adapted over time?
Absolutely. So when I was not in a leadership role, we have informal leaders everywhere in all walks of life. And you're not in a title of a leader, but you're the informal leader. So you're the crew boss, if you will.
Yeah.
Typically in the fire service, that's the senior firefighter rank or senior firefighter position, somebody who's not in a leadership role per se, but they're leader of the crew.
Okay.
So I learned early on, if that's the role that you're in, you have to lead, but you're not in a position of authority, if you will, within that organization, but you're in a position of power to make things better or worse.
Influence.
Ah, that's the word. Influence.
So you're influencing from the seat. Right? You're influencing from in the fire department world, the back seat.
Yep.
Even though you're not doing it from a position of authority, but you're still influencing. So, but again, you agree as time goes on and you get more responsibility that you begin to grow in your leadership. Because I think at the end of the day, you start to learn what makes people tick. You start to learn and kind of like Daniel talks about, he's really being intentional and he's looking at the relationships and how he's managing those. And he's learning how what he says and does affects those around him.
Absolutely.
Right? Sir. And so as you grow as a leader, I think your style does change drastically. It should. Because when you're young in your leadership journey, you're not really picking up on all of it until later. And so that's when I believe you just evolve. But
well, you also have a lot of failures.
Yeah.
And that's where the growth happens anyways.
Right. That's good. That's exactly right. So you learn when you screw it up.
At least you want to.
Well, and like for me, I've never even really taken the time to take a step back and say, okay, I'm being a leader. It's just been
Yeah.
who I am since I was a kid. And now through experiences and my journey, I've gotten to a point where it's like, oh, let me actually make the effort to learn.
Right.
And it's just a whole different perspective. And it's always just been lead by example. Let me just show everybody like this is what I see. But now it's more like we were talking about delegation,
Right.
and the empowerment thing, and letting people grow in their own way as well.
Okay. It's good. Tyler, share a moment. This may be a time for another story. Tell us a time when you realized that you were making an impact as a leader. So think about in your leadership journey, both in the fire service and at DSCO and at your prior job, wherever. Think about a time, a moment when you realized in your head, man, what I'm doing is making an impact. Tell me a story.
Okay. Another fire department story.
Yeah.
I was captain at a double company. But prior to being moved to the double company, I was at a single company, an engine company station. And the organization I'm with, when you're a captain, you're in the role of a captain, you're in charge of what we call district training, and which means it's multiple stations getting together once every couple weeks to do some training together as multiple crews, multi-unit training. Well, to me, that was where I realized I had the possibility at hitting a bigger footprint of impact was when you get multiple people together and you strive for a common goal, whatever that looks like. So basically what we were doing was, but before we met together and we were doing some just engine company drills, it was nothing crazy, just, running through the paces. Well, we caught a fire, and I saw when I got on location, it was not in my first due. It was another company in my district's first due. And we got on scene, and the hose pulling was a mess. There were hoses that were knotted up on the side of the truck on the ground where they had abandoned the effort pulling hose. And that embarrassed me, and it made me mad because, in my opinion, engine company operations in the fire service is the bread and butter of what we do. If you can't do that good, I mean good, great. The other stuff doesn't come as easy. The truck company operations, the special operations stuff, the hazmat, everything builds in the fire service off of engine skills. It's what you learn in rookie school is engine skills. Some truck skills, but basically engine stuff. Well, I know how to fix that. So I made it a fact that we were going to pull hose till we can't get it wrong. The next time we had a fire, flawless. They did it perfect. And 9 times out of 10 in the fire service, when everything goes right, nobody says a word.
Oh, yeah.
It is what it is.
100%.
That's right. All right. So
100%.
you have to celebrate that.
Yeah.
So I made it a point to let them know they did a good job.
Nice.
And so we did it every shift. We continued to do it every shift. And it got to a point where these guys saw the difference of their homework, if you will, the pre-work. So when they our proving ground in the fire service is the fire scene. It shows all weaknesses. You can see, especially in my role now, you can see who's been working, who hasn't been working, who's been sitting on the couch, playing on the TikTok on their phone or whatever. It holds no punches. And these guys were showing up and showing out like they're supposed to do. And it was a motivator to them. They were coming up with new drills to do, new hose loads on the truck. And it made some growth happen with us within that company when I got moved over there. And I felt like I had a real big impact on that because I brought that culture to them of we're going to go above and beyond what the status quo is because the people that we respond to deserve it, the very best of us.
That's good. So I'm sitting there listening to the story, and Daniel, I don't know if you're picking that up, but every time he talks about turning the page, right, and making an impact, every time he's leading the charge, like wanting to go above and beyond. He's painting the picture for his people. Every story he tells, he's painting the picture, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and then working with them to get better. And then, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
That's what it's all about.
You just already mentioned culture. So when you're a part of an organization, you build the culture, and the leader's responsible for that, and he acknowledges that. So that's good. Good stuff.
You know, I don't think we've talked about culture much,
No,
and we might need to have a whole episode on the culture.
Bro,
that's why we bring these guys in.
yeah, bro, you could talk for a week about culture,
Yeah.
good or bad.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, so let's talk about some key life events that have shaped your leadership. So you've shared some stories on the moment you knew you were making an impact. Look, as there's life events that take place inside of you that shape your leadership. Give me two.
Okay. First one I want to talk about was when I realized that I was in a leadership role and didn't know it.
Okay.
And it caught me off guard, and I felt like I got kicked in the nuts.
You think I'd say, yeah.
All right. So we were operating, to paint a better picture, when I got in the fire service, the people that were on the job when I got there had been doing the job as long, if not longer, than I had been alive at the time. And they were the real freaking deal.
White hair.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the old guys.
Like call you whippersnapper. Some of them joked. How? That's a joke. But seriously, these guys were the real deal, and girls were the real freaking deal.
Yeah.
And you felt like you had to step your game up to just be in the same room, if you will. And one of them was a big mentor of mine. Anyways, we were operating on a fire, and the fire was pretty much out. We were just kind of hitting hot spots and just checking, pulling ceiling and stuff, exposing the attic basically. And it was a mixed match crew inside, and it was me and a guy that I think he had about a year less than me, and a guy that was fairly new. We was 3 or 4 of us in this kitchen area. We were pulling ceiling, and I hear on the radio, "Command Interior," and nobody said anything. And he said it again, "Command to Interior." And then he finally said, "Command to Tyler." And I said, "Well, that's me. I better answer." So I answered. He goes, "Hey, how's it going in there? What's the status?" And I told him, "Hey, we're good. We're, trying to get this rest of the ceiling pulled." And
You were just a firefighter now.
yes.
Okay.
Carrie, he said, "Side note, you're in charge of Interior when you're in there with those people." And it completely caught me off guard because I was looking at the task at hand and not looking at my people. And it made me shocked me into reality that I needed to pay attention to the people that are with me and not so much at the task at hand.
How many guys were in there?
They were maybe 3 or 4. It wasn't a whole lot of people, but it was a moment that sticks with me to that day, to be intentional at paying attention to stuff to pay attention to your people as they're doing a task, if you will.
But nonetheless, you were leading and didn't know it.
Exactly.
And he called it out in you.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good. So your other story, this is important. So there was another time where your leadership got shaped into what it is. And that time you realized you were leading, but give us another one.
Okay. I'll tell you, if you want to talk about humility.
Yes.
All right. So about 10 years ago, I had an eye injury off duty at the house. And at the time, I was firing on all cylinders. Personal life, professional life, I was killing it. Just batting 1,000. And I think the Lord has a way of making us humble at times. And I had an eye injury, and it really shocked my system. And it made me look down and in at myself and realize that the things I thought that mattered didn't matter as much. And the things that I was pushing to the side mattered a lot more. And it made me reel in some things that to get me to where I needed to be. And it forced me to not work for about 4 months. And it humbled me. It really did. I realized that I wasn't untouchable and that it is what it is. But it really reeled me in.
So the eye injury it could also be said as a setback, right?
Sure.
So it could be said to be a setback that actually launched you.
It did. It made me into a completely different, it made me think about things completely differently.
Oh, okay. That's good. So, that's real good. What about, on this show, we talk about how leadership is influence, and influence is the key to make an impact, right? So we kind of, and I'm not going to belate all that again. We don't want to waste any time here. But if I told you that your impact on the world, what kind of impact do you want when you leave the earth? What is your legacy?
Ooh, that's a 50-cent question.
Yeah, how do you want your legacy to be written?
I want to be remembered. If I could be remembered as one thing, I want to be remembered as a good dad.
Okay, that's good.
Professionally, I want to be remembered as somebody who created more leaders because of my presence.
Okay. That's good. You got anything on that?
No, but I really like that. I'm into that. I was over here smiling. Oh yeah, me too. Let's create more leaders.
Well, the goal is to create, because we're not gonna all be in that role or whatever role we're in forever. Even if you own your own business, at some point, you want to pass that legacy to somebody, right? Or your kids or whatever. So the goal is to build them up, show them my goal is to teach people that I work with. I want them to know my shortcomings where I hit a wall so they don't hit a wall there, so they can go past where I hit a wall and find their own problem to work through. But it'll be further than where I was at. You know what I mean?
That's it. There you go, Daniel. That's more wisdom. Okay? What he just said is contrary to society. What he just said is that he wants his people to go past him. That is what lives in a leader. And it's very important that, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that, what he just said. And where most people might blow by that, but no, there's something there. He wants the people under him to pass him. And that is contrary to what society wants these days.
Well, a lot of people get caught up in, if I teach you what I know, then you don't need me.
Right.
In reality, that's not the truth. And it may be in a manager, but not in a leadership role.
Right.
I want you to know what I know. Because if you know what I know, you know what my expectation is out in the field somewhere. So I don't have to necessarily be with you.
Right.
One thing we talk about in the fire service, we don't use the term, but the unified command that Jocko uses. But basically that means it's power. It gives everybody the power to make decisions on the fly because of the pre-course work and the tenure we've done, the stuff we've done together training wise. And you know my expectations as the leader. So you can make decisions based on what are predetermined, what we've already done working together. And that happens all the time. It happens every day. In the fire service, it happens. Like I said before, I'm a battalion chief in charge of multiple stations. Well, I don't run every call they run. They don't need me. I'm just going to get in their way on a medical call or a wreck or most time any call. They're good at what they do.
Yeah.
So you got to let them do what they do, but you got to also watch their back and make sure they're safe about it.
So support them.
Yeah, you support them. Exactly.
Tyler, if I told you there was one thing you could share with the whole world, I know that's hard, but this is a big deal. So if there's one thing that you could impart on our audience, which I don't know if the whole world over here, maybe it'll just be us, okay? But that's fine. That's fine.
That's good with me.
Or maybe there's 10,000 people that hear it. But what's one thing that you would want to say, and it can be related to anything, but one thing that you'd want to say to those people? I'll give you a minute to think about it.
Yeah, give me a minute.
So, we've listened to Tyler tell some stories. He's told 3 stories. And that's the purpose of bringing these guys on, because we can sit here and teach leadership all day long until we're blue in the face in the books, right? But the stories is where it's going to resonate with you and me and Daniel. When we talk about the stories and how it actually worked and how what the consequences were of what we do as leaders, that's where we're going to really learn. But here we go. One thing, Tyler. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, let's circle back.
Okay.
Because you said it might have blown past some people. It blew past me, but you're right. I mean, just for him to stop and say, look, I want you underneath me to be better than I'm ever going to be.
That's strong, man.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
That's it. That's humility, right?
Yes.
That's humility, right?
100%.
But this was also something that was taught to us by somebody that was in charge of us.
That's right.
You know,
He worked for some strong leaders.
unbelievable.
That articulated the same thing.
Yes.
And you don't learn that out in the world. Okay? You learn that through leaders and only through leaders. So,
All right. So I got it.
yep, go.
As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another.
That's good. What verse is that?
Proverbs.
I should know it. Which one is it?
Come on.
I don't know it.
27.
27:13.
17.
17. Are you sure?
That's what I wrote down.
I'm about to dip my book out. All right, it might be right.
It might be. It might be wrong, too.
That's probably right.
50-50 shot.
Iron sharpens iron. That's good. So, if that's the one thing you want to share, why?
Because everything is learned through somebody else. Every skill set is learned from somebody else, in my opinion. Wherever if you read something, you read it because somebody wrote it down. If you're performing a task, it's because somebody showed you, or you watched a video that somebody did to show you.
Yeah, I guess if you went and you got dropped on an island somewhere with nobody, your relationship skills would diminish drastically quickly.
Yeah.
So, with having said that, then what that means to me is how important relationship is.
Sure. Everything pendulums on leadership in all walks of life. But at the end of the day, it's about the people.
Keep it about the people. That's good too. So, you've shared some good stories. That's the one important message that you would want to share. Intentional living and leadership in order to make an impact and leave a legacy. That's what we want to do. Is there anything that preparing for this show, or maybe, I know you said you listened to the show the other day.
I did.
But is there anything that, I don't know, whatever it is, 2 weeks that we've been talking about this, that you've picked up, obtained, learned, turned a new leaf, something that you would share that's been good for you? Basically, having took the time to uncover some of this inside of you, can you think of anything that you'll do different as a result of it?
Yes, I'm gonna be more intentional with my humility. You talked about a story where you forcefully made yourself go outside and help clean up y'all's shop at your old business.
Sweep the shop floor.
Sweep the floor. I try to do that, but I'm going to make it a thing to be more intentional about stuff like that, where you can, you're showing your humility.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said before, you should never be above any task. Now there's some tasks that you can't do because you're doing something else, right? But at the same time, when there's downtime, there's no sense in not helping.
Can I share something real quick? Like, wide open here. Okay. I'm getting intimate, but I did the same thing at my house this week. My kids and my wife, they're going to hear this show and they're going to be like, you liar. No, listen, I despise washing dishes. Okay. Hate them. I used to throw them away because I didn't want to do them. And I told my wife this week, I was actually at church Sunday and Blake Stinnett preached, and I'm plugging him right now. Okay. But he gave a good message, but man, God said something to me during his message that I was like, why am I not doing that? Like, I need to do things that I don't want to do in front of my kids so that they know I'm not too good to do them. Okay? Now, I work full-time. My wife's a stay-at-home mom, which is a big job, right? And how often do I just come home and be like, hey, I want to give to you tonight. I just want to wash dishes. Look, man, you know what kind of showing that it even makes you feel good, right? But it's not about you, but it's about them. I want to come home and wash dishes. I want to come home and fold clothes. I want to come home and serve. And if over the last couple of weeks, my desire to serve others has grown a lot. And when we talk about going and sweeping the shop floor, that was a move for me to display humility, forced humility. And so you have the opportunity to do that, right? Daniel, every single day, Tyler, every single day, we have an opportunity to have forced humility and just serve. And it's a powerful thing. And so it made me think about it.
It makes you feel good for doing that too.
Well, it does. But even if it's not about you, now you're intentional about making others know that you're above nothing. And you're willing to, look, at the end of the day, wash feet of your enemies.
I literally watched my boss vacuum the office today, and he wouldn't let me take it from him.
I love it. That's good. Forced humility.
Yes.
Yeah. He didn't have to vacuum. Hell no. But he did. And he did it for a reason. He wants everybody to know that he's not above it. The same reason we do it. And so, anyway, that's a key takeaway for me. Just listening to Tyler talk tonight. Serve and force yourself to be humble, right? What do you think, D?
Well, I'm just excited that we had our first guest, and Tyler, you're an amazing man. Appreciate you being here. So something that you said, I think it was your second story, but you were talking about how you were, leading a group training, and there was like a lot of people there, and you kind of explained it like it was an opportunity.
Absolutely.
And all I was over here thinking about is my bank account and all of my leadership capital that I'm trying to get. And that's that's what you said. You were like, this is an opportunity for me to touch all these men.
Yep.
And get out there and you took it on and you went after it.
Absolutely. Okay. So the idea with that is you want to make deposits of leadership equity without the intention of withdrawing it. Does that make sense?
I love that.
That's good. Deposits without the intention to withdraw. That's very, very powerful.
So it's just staying there.
It's there.
It's there.
Yeah, because, you don't have any expectation. You're doing it because you're just doing it.
You're honoring your people.
Yeah. You're honoring the people. That's your job. That's your duty, your calling. As a leader, you are servant to your people.
Yes.
right? That, my friend,
That's not always easy.
write it down in our books because that's the answer. That's what we want.
At times, that can be a tough pill to swallow.
Oh, man.
It makes you vulnerable as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It does. And that's why people stay away from it. And that's why we talked about how important humility is, because being vulnerable and being humble, taking all the walls down, that's where you learn to lead. And until then, the foundation we talked about a couple weeks ago, we talked about the foundation of leadership, humble. That's the foundation. And if you don't have that, then you can't lead.
So I have a question for y'all.
All right.
What's the difference between a leader and a manager?
So the leader leads from the ditch and the manager stands on top of it.
Very good.
That's the analogy that I would use. The manager knows what has to happen, just like the leader. The manager knows when it has to happen, just like the leader. The difference is the leader gets in the ditch.
I think it takes both. Got to have both. Got to have the leader and the manager. But there's a balance in that right there. When you figure it out, let me know. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also say that the leader can become the manager, or he is the manager.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe he's the informal leader.
Maybe. He can be both.
Which the manager has to win over, by the way.
Yes, 100%.
If he doesn't have the informal leader in his pocket, he doesn't have the mass.
Yes.
He doesn't have the majority.
But the leader can be the manager.
Oh,
They
no
can be- they can-
question.
Yes.
No question.
It can be one and the same, but it also can be no different. It can be different, two different people. And the manager holds his ability and his authority by position, and the leader holds it because he's a leader.
Okay. One thing I'll add to that.
Yeah.
Typically, a leader sets up a team of people that are better than him or her.
A leader will.
And a manager's scared to do that.
That's right. That's good. That's good. That's good.
That's good. Anything else? We're going to wrap it up here in a minute. Before I do, I want to take an opportunity to say thank you, Tyler, for joining us. We probably went a little long today, but I don't care. It's worth every minute. So I just want to say thank you personally for coming and imparting your wisdom and spending some time on us. I know you're
Wisdom, I don't know about that.
I know you're humble, but you need to receive it. Right? That's right. Receive it. Receive it.
I appreciate y'all inviting me.
You're the man, and I just want you to know that you encourage me, and I aspire to be the leader that you are. So, thank you for coming on the show.
And we'll just do one more shout out to Maddie.
Yeah,
We wish you were here. We hope you get better soon so you can be back next week.
Yeah.
We miss you.
yeah, we did.
And guys, I just love you guys. We don't say it enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Love you. Love y'all.
Thank y'all. We're signing off. See ya.
Cool. Thanks for the say.
Oh, man.